interesting session on Managing HR and Upskilling. Please welcome our Chair, Mrs. Gayathri Sandeep, Treasurer, AHPI Tamil Nadu, and CEO of Sitapati Clinic and Hospitals Private Limited. Co-chair for the session, we request Mr. Justin S. Thiraviyam, Executive Director, Apollo Clinic Tambaram, to join us on the dais. Now I hand over the session to both the Chair and Co-chair, Mrs. Gayathri Sandeep and Mr. Justin S. Thiraviyam. Over to you, please.
Thank you very much, Kirtana, for this lovely introduction. Very good afternoon. Not yet. So, good morning. Vanakkam, Madurai. And it's been such a lovely start. I think already the stage has been set ablaze by the financial experts. So, this session would reflect on the HR climate in healthcare today. So, we have put together a wonderful set of speakers. We are really proud of them always. They have been industrial stalwarts again. They're all stars in their own right. So let's just begin. I think Justin and myself, we will alternate in calling them up proudly on stage. So first on stage it's my honor to invite the most graceful lady I've ever met. Yes, she's a renowned obstetrician and a champion of natural birthing and midwifery in India. This lovely lady is none other than Dr. Evita Fernandez, the Managing Director of Fernandez Foundation, Hyderabad. Please put your hands together and welcome Dr. Evita.
I invite Dr. Parivalavan Rajavilu, founder for Skill for Med Training Centers. Sir, please join on stage.
So here we have another person, a lovely lady, who's been the Director of Nursing in Gleneagles Hospital.
I would invite Mr. G.P. Menon, General Manager, Courtyard by Marriott. He's the man of this place. Please join in, sir.
So let's first of all hear it from our first speaker, Dr. Evita. The concept of midwifery or midwifery in India has been popularized by this one woman, and she has been struggling with this concept in the initial first few years, and now she is known so much for this concept because it has really worked. When we had a very heartfelt conversation before inviting Dr. Evita to Madurai, she just said, the most difficult group of people I've ever tried to convince, Gayathri, are hospital owners. Ma'am, you have about 300 of them in front of you, and a 10-year struggle in 10 minutes. I really wonder how, but it's a cakewalk for you.
Thank you. And respected chairpersons, ladies and gentlemen, it's certainly an honor to be here with you today. This was the topic given to me, and I'm focusing on nurses and just a little time on midwifery. But let's begin with this very wise person who says, I'm convinced that nothing we do is more important than hiring and developing people, because whatever we do at the end of the day, we need to invest in people. So with that background, I begin and I spend the next 10 minutes on 4 very basic facts. We know nurses form the backbone of our healthcare system. We must respect and trust them and treat them as colleagues, not as second-class citizens, which we've been doing for years. And we need to appreciate them much more than we do. I'm convinced, being in the business of healthcare for 3 decades, we have an untapped, vast human resource with incredible potential. And fourth, if we provide our nurses with focused, high-quality training, midwifery is an example, magic then happens. Fernandez is a not-for-profit, and our only mission is to make pregnancy and childbirth safe for every woman. We have been around for 76 years, so we realize we are built for birthing. Women birth babies, Domino pizzas, they deliver pizzas. So that's why the word is birthing, not delivery. Single specialty tertiary referral center. We do roughly about 9,800 babies, and that's why we are a postgraduate teaching training institute and now a national midwifery training institute. Now, having got that out of the way, let's move to the new topic. We know all these problems exist for our nurses. I don't need to repeat them. So, what have we tried to do over the years? I'll try and do that over the next 8 points. Workforce. Yes, we began, like many other institutes, going to colleges, campuses, and hiring nurses. So as a result, we've got a great, diverse group of nurses. We have a total of 1,833 employees across 3 hospitals, a nursing school, 3 outpatient clinics, and a center for child development. And you can see 80% of us are women. I just realized this is one panel that has no gender discrimination, equal. We also have, our nurses comprise 31% of our task force. There's something that's come up here. Okay, right. The distribution based on qualification, very quickly you realize that BScs and GNMs form 87% of that population. And again, the positions that they occupy, you can see are staff nurses and senior nurses. So what kind of a career path have we given them? You can have a vertical career path, right up to going up to head of nursing and director of nursing. Or if you don't want to invest in qualifications, you're not interested, but you want to be on the wards, you want to be with people, then you have a horizontal kind of career path. You could go into infection control, you could be a preceptor, an educator, or you can even go into research, as some of our nurses are now doing. This is a young lady from Manipur who joined us many years ago, and today she's a nursing superintendent, won many awards. I still remember her as a very shy, frightened nurse, but today she's competent and a good preceptor too. So now let's shift to evidence-based medicine. As a teaching hospital, we have to practice and we have to walk the talk. In late 90s, early 2000s, there was a lot of evidence coming out that healthy women don't need obstetricians if they are in the hands of midwives. Now, who's a midwife? She may be a nurse or she could be a direct entry, but in India, we take nurses, give them absolutely top-notch quality training, minimum period of 18 months, meeting global standards, then your healthy pregnant women, if they are in the hands of these midwives, are absolutely safe. And look at the outcomes. If they are with midwives, their C-section rate is reduced, unnecessary interventions are reduced. So with this kind of evidence, I was totally zapped. Besides, any country that invests in midwifery as the backbone of their services, their maternal mortality and infant mortality rates are down to less than 10. So we don't have that cadre in India. So I piloted this in 2011, and today, 11, 12 years later, we've got an excellent model of collaborative care, where midwives and doctors work absolutely with trust and respect. And what happens? With this kind of task shifting and focused training, there's sharing of accountability competence. Midwives take care of antenatal care, so they'll run independent antenatal clinics. They are with the mothers during labor and childbirth. Obstetricians are not involved, and they take care of all of those things. These are just glimpses, but with midwifery, you've got a special cadre of nurses who are no longer no nurses. Nurses generally take orders, though now we are changing that. But midwives take charge. They take charge of the woman and the baby. They're accountable for 2 lives. So their career path is different, their salary structure is different, and now that we are a national midwifery training center, they can also become educators. So we run workshops, and we never do it in isolation. It's always a nurse and a doctor, a midwife and a doctor, sending out a very strong message that we are on the same level, competent, dependable. So this is one of our neonatal nurses with a doctor teaching doctors about neonatal resuscitation. From this year, we took a firm stand, and we realized a lot of our nurses are the only breadwinners for their families. They don't have the luxury of going and doing an MSc or a BSc without a salary. So we decided, no, we will sponsor them and then, make sure that they improve. If they stay with us, that's fine. But if they don't, we are contributing to the healthcare in some way. Learning and development, every midwife has to do this online course. It's a 3-month course. We sponsor them. We pay quite a bit of the amount. But that certification enables them to interpret tracings and be better in the labor ward. Doctors have to do it. Every doctor, no matter how senior she is, has to renew this license every 2 years. This is another online certification course that teaches our midwives how to recognize injuries during birth. So the important thing is to recognize and call for help. The third, because we don't have enough midwives with almost 10,000 births, but the most important time is labor and childbirth. That's the most important time. That's when most accidents can happen, or a mother can have PPH. So you need to have a good workforce. So to fill the gaps while we are building the capacity of midwives, we now have intrapartum module, and we hope to now make it a certification course and extend it across private hospitals in our country. Now you see where we're pushing our nurses, getting them to research, getting them to present. So it's up to us who are privileged to be leaders to tap this potential. Last year, we invested in 25 of our nurses, sent them to a boot camp on leadership and skills, and we were totally amazed with what happened. So this is another ongoing thing that we're doing. Well-being, mental health issues are growing, so now we've got a psychologist with a team of psychologists offering free support for anybody in the institute who needs it, starting from housekeeping to nursing. Mindfulness is something I believe in very, very strongly, having practiced it myself. So we took our 40 leaders across the organization, non-clinical, clinical, including our nurses and midwives, and a 10-week course. They met 1 day in the week for 10 weeks, and it has helped them tremendously because I'm on a one-on-one with each of them. And now we're trying to get it permeated into the whole organization. Women's safety, because domestic violence is rife, and we have a lot of single moms in the organization. I myself have personally stood by women and encouraged them to come out of abusive marriages. So we do a lot of sensitizing in this. Now, how do we help with attrition? This is our biggest problem, and I don't think it's going to get better. Our previous panels have told us that already. So we've been trying different things like engagement with nurses, allowances and retention bonus, cross-functional training, and better wages. In fact, this year, we are reviewing the entry point salaries of our nurses. Can a GNM start with 20,000 basic? We offer free food and hostel besides other things. Cross-functional trainings, we took our nurses from the wards and put them into all of these departments, and now I'm surprised, quite a few of them want to actually change their career paths and get more training in these areas. Work culture, we stress and stress and stress on the fact that we are all equal and that we bring our unique strengths to the table and we need each other. Now this is a lovely example. There are faculty that we run workshops. These workshops are extremely popular with clinicians, particularly single owner hospital owners who don't have time. They come in for these workshops. You can't tell the difference between midwives, doctors, nurses here. The other thing is we all wear the same badge. All we have is the first name. So they decided to take a photograph of my badge, and the security guard, right up to the top management, it's the same badge, just with our name, nothing else. And that's a very strong message to say that each of us brings our value to the table. We've done away with separate lounges. We get them together to have coffee, same canteen, little things to break that hierarchy, to make people feel respected and appreciated. This is one of the highlights of the year. This is a run-up to Hospital Day function, and the women's cricket matches draw a lot of attention. And more so when you have a housekeeping person as the captain, or you have a frontline receptionist as the captain, and you've got doctors in the team and they all have to listen to the captain. It's absolutely level playing field. Of course, the Hospital Day function gets everybody on the stage and they perform with, a mixture of people from housekeeping to doctors. Rewards and recognition, I think all of us do this. We appreciate our nurses, but we probably tend to do it a little more over the last few years because we realize we need to change our attitude to our nurses. We need to respect them more. We need to unleash the potential, and you'll be surprised how wonderfully they work as leaders. What helped us last year and year before last, we decided to profile our midwives and nurses individually and actually put it on our YouTube channel. And that made such a difference to each one of them. Interviewing them, saying, why are you doing this? What makes you do this? Why have you chosen this profession? So we did it for our neonatal nurses, for our midwives. So I've tried in 10 minutes to tell you what we've been trying to do over the last several years. And I think Brittany Wilson has summed it up beautifully. I can't do it any better than what she says. No matter what you look at, nursing is important. Nurses make a difference. So at the end of the day, it boils down to how do we treat each other and how can we tap the potential in each other? How can we provide a work culture where everybody feels respected and appreciated? Thank you.
Next on stage, let's invite Dr. Pari. And a few words about Dr. Pari is that all of you would have heard about the pedo pressure graph, which is such an invention with IIT people. It's been a collaboration by Dr. Pari and his idea that the pedo pressure is very important for the diabetic foot cases. And also he's a surgeon, a laparoscopic surgeon who's trained himself to be that mentor for entire group of healthcare professionals. So he does a lot of skills training, and here on stage he's going to share with us some of the difficulties or challenges that one would face while training their hospital staff, and especially across the healthcare industry. Over to you, Doctor.
Good morning, everyone. I really thank the AHPI organizing committee for giving me this opportunity, and also to be part of this very excellent panel. So can you have the slides? Okay. Thank you. So what I'm going to focus today says the government sector, because I've recently been working with the Tamil Nadu Apex Skill Development Corporation, and so have found many challenges there. But it also applies to a lot of private organizations as well. So I'll start list all the challenges first, and then I will tell our experience of how we have overcome, and end up with a very important message, especially on the stage of the hospital owners and hospital managers who are sitting here. So the first thing you find when you go to any, we all know this, is the bureaucratic red tape, and it takes many forms. So there are multiple levels. If you take education, because we're focusing mainly on nursing education, so or doctors or any healthcare workers, the nursing, the government sector is divided into three broad categories. It's Director of Medical Services, Director of Public Health, and the services. So you first have to know which one you're going to work with. And then once you get into it, then there are several layers of approvals before you can actually start working. So sometimes it takes even 6 months or even a year before you can actually start getting onto the ground and working. So many of us who are not prepared for this weight will sort of give up in the middle, and therefore we may not work with the government at all. So it requires a lot of patience and a lot of persistence to keep on working to work with the sector. The next is lack of coordination, and as I said, these things happen in a micro level even in private organizations. So there is red tape once the organization becomes big. I remember when my organization started as a 20 or 40 bedded, it was so agile. We could take decisions on the go. But now when you are a 200 bedded organization, it takes that much longer for the decisions to be taken. So the red tape exists everywhere. Similarly, the lack of coordination. So you got to know all these cogs and wheels are there in much larger scale, and therefore there is lack of coordination between the various departments. So again, in a private institution, it's only about maximum 10 to 20 departments working. But you can imagine the government, there are several departments, and top of it, there are several national programs working, state level programs working, and they have to juggle with all these things. So the attention goes on different directions, and therefore the coordination also becomes that much difficult. Lack of infrastructure and equipment is a problem. I remember I was in one training session, we are talking about, in fact, PPH management, and the trainer was talking about how we need to put the patient on the trolley and keep them safe by putting the side rails up. And one of the persons who's from the government sector stood up and said, first of all, we need to find stretchers. And many of us don't have trolleys, we only have trolleys, we don't have side railings. So how do we put all these things? So the amount of work that happens, the volume of work that happens in the government sector with very minimal infrastructure and equipment is really amazing. But at the same time, when you do the training, you also need to understand the limitations and also try to sort of change the things or innovate to make sure that with the existing equipment, how can they keep the patient safe? So this is a huge challenge, and with this which we have to face. Facilities mismatch, even though they may have equipment, so many times there is a mismatch. For example, the equipment may be available, but the room or infrastructure which is needed to house those equipments may not be present, or vice versa. I still remember the story when I was an undergraduate that in the cardiothoracic department, the heart-lung machine was there for almost 3 months for want of a 15 amp plug socket. There was only 5 amp plug socket in the cardiac unit, and the only thing which needed for the heart-lung machine to work was a 15 amp socket. And it took them almost first of all, it took somebody to go and find out that this is the reason that was for the delay and for this to be implemented. So this sort of things can also happen. So that means that you can't just go and do training. You need to go on the ground, see what infrastructure is available, make things happen. So it's a lot of persistence needs to be there. The next is insufficient funding, which is also universal. Training is sort of in the private and public sector is not given as much importance. I mean, there are only few stars like Dr. Evita who put so much of emphasis on training, and they brought out such a gold standard education. But most of the time, because we've been working from 2018 with both private institutions and private and public hospitals, when we go and talk about training, there are two things, especially with nurses, nursing training takes a back seat. The first thing is the nursing attrition. Why do you want to spend on a workforce that is temporary? The nurses stay with us only for 6 months or 1 year. Why should I spend the money on them? That is the main reason why the training takes a back seat. Our argument is that the final beneficiary is actually the patient. Whether the nurses stay for 3 months, 6 months, 1 year or 2 years really doesn't matter. But if you have a continuous training program in your hospital that keeps upskilling the nurses to provide not high-tech care, but at least safe patient care, that is the motivation that you need to get into training. But unfortunately, not many organizations have, even if they have the motivation, they don't have the funding. And then the lack of trainers. Most of the time, it is not we're not equipped with trainers, and even if trainers are there, they leave for much better jobs. So we're always on the lookout for trainers, and the trainers need to be trained. So training of trainers takes a long time, and they have to understand the culture. There's so many other things. So that also is a huge challenge. Now, what I told so far is about the broad thing, about what happens in the government or what happens at an organizational level. But now, once you get an inroad and start training in any organization, you got to face the manpower or woman power or person power, whatever is politically correct. We got to deal with those persons. And here, the main problem, again, I'm talking mostly because our experience has been with the nurses, is lack of motivation and engagement. As Dr. Evita put in the slide, I don't know whether you remember, she put two career paths. One is horizontal and other is a vertical path. And we find that more, like maybe 50 to 60% of the nurses are quite satisfied with the horizontal career path. So it's very difficult to motivate and engage the nurses to come for training. Recently, we had an experience of a sort of strike or a dharna by the nurses whom we are training. They all grouped together and went to the nursing director and said, we can't be going for training 1 hour every week. It's too much for us. We are so busy, we are overworked, we are doing double shifts. So 1 hour every week, this skills for med company is coming and training us. It's too much. So that sort of lack of motivation and engagement, unless the nursing director or leader is so much behind this training, is very, very difficult to implement. So this is one of the major roadblocks we face every now and then. Another important thing is a training need mismatch. You need to find out what is the need for that particular institution. So again, in the government sector, one example which I came across, which was told by the COO there, Mr. Sugan, who's actually sitting in this audience, and also Mr. Lenin, who's here, is the National Health Mission comes up with some flavors every year. So this year it is maternity and geriatric care. So this needs to be put across all the hospitals all over India. And actually, some places it may not be relevant. So this training needs mismatch is a problem. So another 2 minutes, okay. So the other important thing is technophobia. We all talk about AI and all these things which is happening. But when you go and say online classes, you got to do learning management system, they're all really rattled. They want to just bring their books and write notes. So even though technology can actually facilitate training, it becomes a major barrier. Language and communication barriers, again, very important. So most of us are very familiar with Tamil. All our PowerPoints are in English. So unless you have this bilingual thing of looking at English and talking to them in the local vernacular language, again, it doesn't go through. So your trainers should be trained to sort of communicate both in English and Tanglish or whatever you call it. So bilingual language is very, very important. So far I've told about the challenges. This is only a few of the things which we faced. So I just want to share the experience of how we are working with the government sector. Skills for Med is the organization we have founded, and we do train the nurses. We teamed up with Tamil Nadu APEC Skill Development Center for Healthcare, and we're trying to bring forth. So one of the solutions we did is to standardize training materials and training. So we are focusing on medical surgical nursing. All on-site training slides are prepared by us and given to all the trainers. So any hospital you go, it will be the same training which is given to all the nurses. The same happens for online modules and also the assessments. That way, the assessments and the way you appraise the nurses in the various organizations is very, very similar. So the other is training capacity building. As I said, there are very lack of trainers. We are trying to bring a cadre called clinical instructors. There are nursing educators who finish MSc, and their full job is actually to do education. But nursing instructors are those who still do the clinical work and then do the training about 1 or 2 hours or maybe 4 hours a week. The advantage of that is they're always in touch with the clinical work, and therefore whatever examples and what they give in training becomes much relevant. And we also give support to them. Our nursing trainers go and support these clinical instructors, and frequent audits are done to see how they are going to do. And now we have sort of learned over the years that giving everything to the nurses is not necessary in training. You need to make training modules small, bite-sized, and with minimum training time. This is the story of the boy who threw starfishes into the sea, and this man is asking, why are you throwing? Anyway, it won't make any difference. So the boy picks up this one starfish and throws into the ocean and says, to that starfish, it makes a difference. So you've got to make sure that your modules are focused, high impact, takes little time, and makes a difference to that nurse, and thereby making difference to the patient. So this is something which I've learned the last few years, and we have really downsized our training and made our training much more focused and small things which are very impactful. And finally, I want to end by emphasizing on this. I think when you talk about government sector and public sector, I think AHPI has got a huge role in joining hands with the government sector. Like each hospital in its own area can team up with medical colleges and nursing colleges and make sure that there is a win-win on both sides. Both the government sector and the private sector can benefit by public and private partnership. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pari. It was a wonderful presentation. Actually, we all agree that definitely we needed trainings, but you have explained and you have briefed in such a way, it sliced down the training, how the session is supposed to be there. Thank you so much.
Now we have Dr. Jothi, Clara, Micheal taking the stage now to actually explain to us how to nurture our nurses. What do the nurses actually want from their employers?
Thank you, Gayathri. Vanakkam, Madurai. I'm very happy to be here. Thanks to AHPI for such a platform. Every platform offered to me, I take it as a learning because it gives us a lot of reflection as to what are we doing, is it right, or anything else we could do. So thanks to AHPI for giving this reflection because this particular topic is very close to my heart. Attract, engage, and utilize. I call it as nurse power because it's not human power, it's a nurse power, talent for future healthcare. This is a statistics. I'm not going to spend time on this because I'm given only 10 minutes. With this statistics, how are we going to move forward? This is a big question in our mind. But I am a very optimistic person and I share the same stage with optimistic team here. We will go on. I'm sure all our patients will be safe. We will be getting enough nurses, at least to manage the situation, because we are thinking about it. A good handicraft of a doctor, the surgeon, goes in the hands of a wonderful nurse. Patients go home safely. Clinical outcome is excellent. And this would result not only a result in the hospital, but in a larger forum where even an investment company comes in to evaluate. They say, your clinical outcome is extraordinary. We want to partner with your institution or buy in your institution. So this is where the power of nurses lies. A surgeon after the day's surgery goes home. He has a sleepful night. Doctors are our customers. We cater to them. This is what we keep repeatedly telling to our nurses. The next day the surgeon comes on rounds. He'll be much more happier. Which other nurse he would want to be in his unit? This is one aspect of the coin. The other aspect of the coin, the other side of the coin, nurses, boundaries are not very clear. 24 hours she is at the bedside. For everything, she is to be blamed. For all good things that is happening, probably she is forgotten. In the press release, we have doctors, we have hospitals getting portrayed, but there are several nurses who have challenged and said, if it is a 5 days package, we would send patient home on 4th day. I have worked with such nurses and I'm working with such nurses. So ultimately what results is the burnout, fatigue, and her frustration. This is where nursing leaders stand with them. HR stands with them. Some of the hospital, like Dr. Evita, and I have seen many of you seated here, you take care of nurses. Thanks to all of you, because nurses need this. And nursing community is much loyal and one of the trusted professional I can assure. Worked with them for so many years. And all that they need is a small attention. What do they need? They don't need big, big things. They need very small aspects. It's very clear here. We had medical clowning program for nurses. Nurses were putting all their red noses, put their hairs on. They went and danced in front of patient. We had yoga program. You know how much enlightened they are. It is not only for nurses, it got benefited because it empowered the other employees. It also empowered patients. It engaged patients. So there are many things that nurses want, but none of it are very costly except for the salary demand that they ask. And even that, they deserve it. So 100 years from after independence, 2047, myself and Dr. Pari, we are taking up a survey to know that what would a nursing profession look like in India? It is going to not be a dream, but also an action that we have to take from now on. I'm very glad Kaho, Lalu is here, AHPI, and all other organizations have thought that why should we invest in nursing? So these are some of the reasons why we have to invest in nursing. If not, we are going to get nurses prepared for the entire globe, but not for India. But I would very strongly say, we can even plan to take international nurses coming to work in India. It's not difficult. Dr. Evita is an example, CMC is an example, I've come from CMC. It is possible. Entire world will look because so much of clinical work is going on in India. So much of clinical ground activities are going on in India. The number of patients getting treated and operated, the plethora of clinical expertise that is available, none other country can provide for better learning. So this is what probably could be a dream, and we can all walk towards the dream. All that we need is the time to change, and this is here now. And I just wanted to tell you, as an experienced nurse standing in front of you, what is that I have done in my experience. Dr. Ilanan sitting here, we have fought a lot. You know, we would differ, and then we conclude what is best for the patient. To be honest, when the water was 5 feet inside the hospital, he was a doctor, led the evacuation. I was in the front as a nurse, stood with him. We both initiated the evacuation of the patient from the hospital. We took a very bold step. We have to break traditions. What is tradition? We think a nurse coming on the first day, okay, you get posted in one particular ward for 3 months. Okay, shift her to this ICU, shift her to other ICU. Are we considering their aptitude? Are we considering their interest? If we want to bid a fish, we don't send strawberries. We send a worm. What fish wants? How many of us ask, what are you interested in? Many times we have to break. I broke this tradition in 2009. We don't do it. What are the other things that we have to break? Bureaucratic system. Why should a nurse go with hierarchy? Why should a nurse at the bedside give an alarm to the hospital administrator straight away? When something wrong is happening at the bedside, which hospital is at threat? Give them the power. Why should they go through hierarchy? Very bureaucratic. Information pass on from nurse to top. But some information cannot wait. They have to know how to be a reactive nurse at that point of time. And they have to be given the freedom. We have to break that silo. If my nurse is willing to talk to a CEO, I would not say anything, as long as I get the information that she has done good job. The third aspect that we have to do is a stereotypic patient care. Patient assignment. Bed 1 to 5 assigned to this nurse. Bed 6 to 7 assigned to other nurse. Why is it so? Is it safe for patient? Is it giving confidence for the nurse? No. So these are the important things that I have tried it out and I have been successful standing before you, and I would actually oppose all the traditional practices that is happening in healthcare towards and around nurses should be broken. Having a distant vision is very important, and how many of us see a nurse joining on the first day? How many of us tell her, you have an opportunity to become a team leader in 6 months to 1 year. I was given that opportunity in CMC. So probably because of that I was able to grow. So we cannot claim our growth only because the talent that I have or a nurse has. The environment has to nourish. She has to be very clearly told, because there is a vision for her. When she joins with me, we give a vision. If you're joining as an initiative nurse, working as a quality nurse, one day you have an opportunity to become a director of nursing, a chief nursing officer. It may be delayed, but it will never be denied for you. Vision has to be very clearly put in her mind so that she will be able to move on. Attracting nursing talent, a very significant aspect. When you say attracting nursing talent, competitive salaries are very important. Who decides salary for nurses? Is it based on the competencies? It is not. That is why we are losing nurses outside. So this is one area we need to focus. Non-nursing remuneration. All nurses don't stay for salary. I'll just take 5 minutes. Non-nursing roles are, the remunerations are very important, because otherwise the tier 3 cities and many of the hospitals, those who are paying lesser than the corporate, are having better nurses. Nurses do provide care with smile, happiness. They stay on and move forward. Why? Because all these aspects are taken into consideration. Engaging nurses is very important, and in this, I am going to speak about the last encounter which I had yesterday with my nurses. These are the photos. You know, yesterday when I visited my hospital in LB Nagar, Hyderabad, all night duty nurses, we all sat around. I sat with them. I asked them one thing, just tell what impressed you. Just 2 minutes. What impressed you? You know, they said, there was a patient. The doctor advised that this patient will not be able to survive. So we have to take care of this patient, and they have also advised whether relative wants to take home. But finally, what happened was, this particular patient, this is in the MICU, and the nurses in different color there, they told, like, we 4 of us took care of the patient went home. This happened 3 months before. And they said after that, they brought 7 patients to the hospital, it seems. So what they are saying is, they became even brand ambassadors, and they did the business development and sales managers in the hospital's job. What a fantastic thing that they are doing. So this is what we have to listen to them. Listen, there are 100 stories, and we have to utilize their efficiency and expanding their role. I am sure nurses are not going to be only bedside nurses. They are going to get expanded. Insurance companies will require nurses to give some inputs. All the companies that are bringing in equipments and other products, they will require. And moreover, I want to conclude with this. This is a team of nurses who made me proud, who made our organization proud. They are the specialist nurses. Tissue viability, hospital infection control nurses, medication management nurses. We have to title them. Give them identity. Don't mark them under one umbrella of nurses. Give them specialization and codes. This is the final slide I want to tell you is develop a center of excellence for nursing in your organization. You all have orthopedic center, cardiac center, and so many other centers of excellence. Just attach nurses to it and group the nurses under the Center of Nursing Excellence. The CONE is a very powerful initiative that has helped us to move forward. So just let us make a difference and move the path forward so that we walk in a different path which others have not walked, so that we retain our nurses and make them happy. I apologize for taking time because nursing is core to me and I'm passionate. I took little extra time. Apologies. Thank you.
So thank you for this lovely presentation. So we have a lovely gentleman again in this stage, on the stage, Mr. J.P. Menon. And this is going to just be a conversation between the chair, co-chair, and with J.P. Menon on many things we see change over time, especially in the healthcare industry. And AHPI is very, very bent upon learning from other industries. So we choose to learn from our direct competitor, the hospitality industry. Because constant blame on the healthcare industry comes from the hospitality industry. Because most of the healthcare institutions want to look like hotels, and most of the hotels now want to get converted into hospitals. I don't know how this transition is even possible, but it's happening. So let's have a couple of questions with JP Menon. JP sir, please tell us, I think customers' needs are changing today. What are the great changes that you see in the client demands in your industry that we can learn from?
First and foremost, thank you for this opportunity, AHPICON. I really appreciate this. I think this is the first time, maybe in my life, hospital and hospitality sitting in one dais. So I think some great opportunity this. Also, of course, yours is a very noble profession, saving life. Ours is a noble profession, celebrating life. You are absolutely on call 24/7. Same goes with the hospitality industry. We are always available 24/7. And maybe as a professional, which I have come close to looking like a doctor is, I think, when I walked into hospitals, on a busy day when, I had to attend to something in a hospital, wearing my tie, so I get mistaken for a doctor, by the security or some of the patients around. So I think come to being, in your profession. But really appreciate this. Changes, I wouldn't say there are, because the basic credo in our life, Atiti Devo Bhava, I think that remains absolutely, sacrosanct. Every guest who walks through our door, is looked at with loving care. So TLC is something which we apply to every guest who comes to the hotel. In our industry, tender loving care is, something which cannot be, substituted with anything else. But talking about new trends, maybe what is emerging is from a guest point of view or from a corporate requirement which we have seen is the emphasis on sustainability. So a lot of MNCs are extremely passionate about it. I have, Thiraviyam here, who is absolutely, an epitome of, sustainability and what we can contribute to the society. So that's something which there's a lot of emphasis on, for sure. And to just give you an example, we opened a Westin at Hyderabad last year, and the hotel is actually sold out for a year and a half, thanks to one big corporate who really appreciated the sustainability efforts in their hotel. So that's the power of, sustainability looking forward. So I think that's one significant aspect. As Marriott, we concentrate on. Yeah.
So the next question is subject to the same topic, financial sustainability. Especially the operational cost, it's keep increasing. Definitely it is for both the industry, it's a hospital and hotels. We just want to get some advice from you, how to overcome this financial burdens for the both industries.
Easiest way out is increase rates. But definitely subjective. There's a lot of competition, and it does become very difficult. Loyalty is not, like in a hospital. Loyalty, I think, is if you know a doctor, you're comfortable with a hospital. The loyalty is definitely there. Whereas in a hospital, yes, it does matter, but then of course money makes a difference. When even a few thousands here and there does make a difference. So we wish we had the possibility of increasing rate just to take care of the increasing costs. But otherwise, yes. Again, sustainability comes back to there where we, of course, reducing costs, reducing water consumption in a hotel, the electric power consumption, which is one of our biggest guzzlers of our cost, or one of the biggest cost factor. So from that aspect, we keep looking at what can be looked at, one, contributing to the society, as well as reducing wasteful expenditure at the hotel and expenses. So that's one main aspect which we look at.
I think I'd like to ask a question on how do you maintain this knowledge, skill, attitude balance with your staff level? Because this is something that we'd like to learn from the hoteling industry, because the fresher comes into the hospital for us, and already existing skills have to be honed, and also new knowledge has to be imparted, and the attitude also has to be retained. So do you have a strategy by which you maintain the knowledge, skill, attitude and help them grow? So what would you have as your best HR strategies that you could share with us?
Maybe I'll just request for the presentation to be put on. We have Marriott is extremely passionate about associates. So putting people first is one of our biggest initiative. That actually is like a gospel truth, or one of our absolute core values. So Mr. Marriott actually says, take care of your associates, they will take care of your guests, and they will come back. So putting people, our associates, at as our first priority is one of our biggest aspects in our life. So when we look at hiring people, the first and foremost what comes into play is the attitude, because in our business it is not easy that somebody can just walk in and do work with us, because we look at the first criteria when we look at an associate. He or she could be from the best of the institutes, but what we see is the attitude they carry towards our customers or guests. So that's the first and foremost priority when we look at people, for sure. And once they are in the premise, there are a lot of training efforts which go in. We have an L&D department specifically looking at each and every aspect of training at the hotel. I can very proudly say that Marriott has the largest training online platform, or what we call it as Marriott Global Services. So any and every training requirement for any associate, whether it is a steward, whether it's a housekeeping associate, whether it's a chef, whether it is somebody from the front office, they have enough and more material available for learning. Of course, it is facilitated by the L&D team, and we have very strict schedules for them to adhere to within the time span. Looking at first 45 days, 60 days, 90 days. It's very closely monitored, and we look at that as one of our priorities for sure.
Wonderful. Thank you, sir. In the interest of time and to be fair to all speakers going to come in future, for the day, I request any one or two questions from the audience, please, so that we can wrap up the sessions. Yes. Yes, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Sugan. I represent an organization called Tamil Nadu EPICS Skill Development Center for Healthcare. In fact, Dr. Pari was mentioning about it. Thank you very much. And I think all those, the lack of coordination and many other things he was talking was about me and my organization. Nevertheless, I have a question to all the audience here. In fact, to the distinguished guest in the dais. How do you rate the certification? After you all were talking about training, its importance, and how it will improve the organization and overall core values also. But I'm also looking at how you value the certification, assessment and certification. Anyone from the dais can answer that. That is number one. And number two, I think over the years we have been interacting with many hospitals. I'm not able to see a career guidance is given, a career path is given to your people who are working in your hospital. It can be nurse, it can be any other non-clinical people also. So if anyone can answer on that, it would be really nice. Thank you very much. And I would like to add one more point here. I represent Tamil Nadu Skill Development Corporation also. See, we are collaborating directly with the hospitals for training, for helping the hospitals, for providing trained manpower. So I think I can take the liberty of this platform. Anybody can collaborate with us. We can support you in that. Thank you.
Can I just attempt? I'm not sure what certification you're referring to, but there are some certifications, excellent quality, and the only way you can assess the output is by seeing the impact that certification has on the way the nurse performs. As an obstetrician, I spent my first 10-15 years focusing on building the team and institutionalizing what we were doing. And I realized with deep regret that I had not focused on the non-clinical development of people. And that's when I brought in professionals and learned the importance of career paths for each individual. So today, on our organogram, we've traced a career path for everybody, starting with drivers, security guards, where could they reach if they want to? And I feel that's the way we look at certifications and career paths. The other thing we've also done, because I'm talking from the pregnancy and childbirth perspective, we have what is called doulas. Doulas are women who work with couples and give them that emotional, physical support. And they need to be certified. So we worked with the University of Hyderabad, and they've now certified it as an online course. So this opens up a whole career path for women who are interested in working in this space. I mean, that's just an example.
Yeah, I think, Sugan, you were mentioning about the value of certification. Is that what your question was? Okay. So the value of certification depends on the organization who is going to give it. That's number one. If it is a very well-known organization, then that matters. But ultimately, will that help that particular person in finding a new job or a promotion, or in turn leading to financial raise? I think that is where it's important, and there has to be a track record. It's just word of mouth. So if somebody has got the certification in the past few years, tell you that yes, I got the certificate, therefore I got a job in another hospital, then that becomes valuable. So I think that's how it works. I think one is the prominence of the organization, but ultimately it is whether it helps that individual to come up in their career or get more financial gains. And that's how I look at it.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pari. And I think it was a wonderful panel from here, this side, with all insights given, and a lovely question from the audience as well. Thank you so much for the time, and I thank AHPI for bringing together all of us, and especially the healthcare providers all across Tamil Nadu with great representation from the center as well. So thank you for the time, and I thank all the panelists for being here today, and I thank the hospitality Marriott also, and Mr. J.P. Menon especially. Thanks a lot.
Requesting Dr. Lallu Joseph to please felicitate Dr. Jothi, Clara, Micheal. Dr. Evita Fernandez. Dr. Parivalavan Rajavelu. Mr. J.P. Menon, General Manager, Courtyard Marriott, Madurai. Our session chair, Mrs. Gayathri Sandeep. And the session co-chair, Mr. Justin S. Thiraviyam. Can you please step forward for a group photograph, please? Can you please kindly step forward for a group photograph? Thank you.